by fans, for fans, the Hog Style. And now, here's your host, Sean Conti.
Our guest today is a regular contributor over at CBS Sports and the National Football Post. He's an NFL contract expert and a multiple-time guest here at the Hog Style. And he's here with us today to talk a little Redskins. So please, guys, join me in welcoming Mr. Joel Corry. Joel, welcome to the show.
How you guys doing today? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, we have had some major news, obviously, in Redskins land and some major contract movement, so we've got to talk to you about that. First things first, Alex Smith. Okay, setting aside the contract details, were you surprised at all that the Redskins made this move this early in the offseason?
Yeah, I'm surprised they made any move before early March. I thought this thing would play out where they would decide whether to put some sort of designation on Cousins and then go from there. But I said a long time ago that if Cousins wasn't going to be your guy in 2018, then maybe Alex Smith wouldn't be a bad option. The offenses are similar. I don't know if it's an upgrade. It's more of a lateral move to me, but given how this thing is played out, it's probably one of the better moves you could make to have a quarterback next year.
Well, you know, since you are a former agent and a contract expert, we'd like to get your evaluation of Smith's contract. You know, from what we understand, he's on the final year of his KC deal, the cap hit of about $17 million. Then he's got a 4-year extension worth about $94 million. What's your evaluation of the contract that the Redskins have supposedly given him?
Well, assuming the reported numbers are accurate, which sometimes things aren't what they appear to be, we'll know, I guess, mid-March what the real deal is. But that doesn't seem outlandish to me if you look at where the quarterback market has gone. That if you were going to sign a starting quarterback in his mid-30s, he's 33, coming off of a career year, you would expect it to be in the $22-23 million per year range. The guarantee amount, the $70 million in overall guarantees, I don't know how much is fully guaranteed at signing. That's going to be about the going rate. So I'm not really surprised where this deal came in, because if you were going to give up anything substantial in terms of compensation to acquire Alex Smith, you were going to extend him anyway.
Well, you know, let's talk about the guarantee, because we've seen various reports. We've seen everything from $71 million fully guaranteed to none of it's fully guaranteed. It's only guaranteed for injury. My guess would be that it's some combination of both. What's the most reasonable expectation for the $71 million package? Can you venture a guess?
Oh, it's not going to be $71 fully guaranteed at signing, because Alex Smith is not going to set a record for the amount fully guaranteed at signing. Right now, that's Matthew Stafford at 60.5. His last contract, I think, had $30 million fully guaranteed at signing and $45 in overall guarantees, where the money in the future years would vest to become fully guaranteed down the road. I suspect it's the same type of structure where, let's say, the 2020 year will become fully guaranteed in 2020. Probably the same fully guaranteed to overall guarantee ratio of 2/3. So I'm going to peg the amount fully guaranteed at signing in the high 40s. Probably mid to high 40s. Probably maybe 45, 47, something like that. But I would be shocked if it's under 40, because if you look at what Derek Carr did, he had $70 million in overall guarantees in his contract. 40 was fully guaranteed at signing.
And so then we can assume that, you know, more guarantees vest in, say, year 3 if he's on the roster or something like that.
Yeah, you probably have 2018 and 19 fully guaranteed at signing, and then it goes a year-to-year proposition in terms of kind of like Josh Norman's deal. You knew you were going to have him for at least 2 years, and then this upcoming year, 2018, the base salary is, I think, fully guaranteed on either the 3rd day or 5th day of the league year, so it'll probably be structured like that.
I wasn't too shocked that the Redskins decided to just cut bait and do this. I was a little surprised that that Smith would agree to a contract so early. Was this kind of the best offer he was going to get? I mean, is this just a matter of Alex Smith kind of securing what he can now without a reasonable expectation of more later if he had wanted to wait?
Well, he probably didn't want to play out his contract in a new surrounding and then try to get a new deal then. And he obviously didn't want to go to Cleveland because they were a team that was going to trade for him. He didn't want to start from scratch. At least the Redskins are a team that were competitive, and who knows what would have happened if there hadn't have been the team decimated by injuries this year. Maybe they squeak into the playoffs as a wild card team. So he's looking at, how to go to a situation where I've got a chance of continuing to be a playoff caliber, being on a playoff caliber team. Given what the options may have been, the Redskins probably were the best fit. Doesn't have to learn a new offense. Pretty much there's going to be continuity because, granted, there are different nuances to West Coast offenses, but the same basic offense is the same.
Right.
So that had to be a plus as well. So, yeah, I understand why he did the deal.
Speaking of
that's interesting.
It from his perspective, what about from the team's perspective? Do you think that the team is better off with Smith on this kind of deal where it's probably going to be less than what Kirk would have made? Or do you think that they should have kept Kirk more money, but you have the continuity? Where would you come down on that?
Oh, I think that ship sailed with the way they handled the whole negotiations from the time that he first played well, his first year as a full-time starter. That thing was botched from the get-go. So I think if you weren't going to put a tag on him, which obviously actually that may not be true, but if you weren't going to have him on playing the 2018 season on a tag, this is your next best thing, because I'm assuming in the Alex Smith extension that you're going to lower his cap number. He had $17 million of salary. You're going to convert some of that into signing bonus. You're going to have a much lower cap number than 17, presumably. Mm-hmm. And that's much better than having to have Cousins, at least from a cap standpoint. I don't know about from a quarterbacking standpoint. Having Cousins on either a $28.7 or $34.5 million tag, it gives you far more flexibility to go out and improve the roster this way.
Well, let's talk about Cousins real fast because I don't know how in tune you are specifically with the DC media because you're a national guy, but the Adam Schefter report that the Redskins were considering tagging Cousins in order to trade him has turned DC upside down in some respects. Can you tell us, in your opinion, is that just Looney Tunes talk, or is that actually a reasonable proposition from a cap and from a cap management standpoint?
I'm not putting it past Bruce Allen to seriously consider doing something like that, and here's the reason why.
I like where you're going with this.
I forget what year it was, but there was one year that he acquired Jake Plummer from Denver, and Jake Plummer said on no uncertain terms that he was not going to play in Tampa and decided to retire. That did not deter Bruce Allen for one reason. When you trade for a contract, you step into the shoes of the old team. So even though Jake Plummer said he was never going to play in Tampa, never did, Bruce Allen was like, I can file a grievance and I can get some money back in signing bonus, get some cap relief that way from Jake Plummer, which he did. So when that report came out that they may put a franchise tag on Kirk Cousins and then try to trade him, I was like, yeah, that's par for the course for Bruce. Now that's
So you're saying Bruce is just crazy enough to do something so stupid as to destroy their cap space just out of spite, basically?
Well, he's not looking at it as spite, I don't think. I think he's looking at it as I can salvage more compensation. I call it greed as opposed to spite, because he was greedy in terms of exercising his rights, in terms of being able to recoup signing bonus money from a guy who never played it down for his team. So if he thinks that he has a legitimate opportunity to extract compensation from somebody else for Cousins, I think he may try to take it. Now, the problem is you're going to need Kirk Cousins to be a cooperative player in this whole scenario, because let's say you go ahead and put the franchise tag on him. As soon as you do it, say you do it March 6th, the deadline day, you're counting $34.5 million on the cap, even though it's unsigned. Now, you can't just trade Kirk Cousins to anybody you want to in this situation because, one, you can't trade someone on an unsigned tender, whether it's restricted, franchise, or transition. So he would have to sign the tender first before you could trade him. And since he probably was thinking, hey, I'm going to be an unrestricted free agent and wants to be one, then he's not going to do you any favors. He's going to tell you, they're going to say, hey, we want to send you here. And he's like, nope, don't want to go there. But the bigger issue may be that the second you put the franchise tag on him, I'm pretty sure the NFLPA is going to file a grievance because the reason the franchise tag was negotiated into CBA's dating back to the early 90s was you put a tag on someone with the intention to sign them to a long-term deal. This really violates the spirit of the rule. That would be probably
really
where they would go with the grievance. I don't know if they would be successful because we never had a grievance in this situation, and we've seen another team before put a franchise tag on a player with the specific purpose to trade him. That was New England Patriots in 2009 with Matt Castle. So that would be an interesting scenario, but it's a risk if the Redskins put the franchise tag on him because, one, you're going to tie up all this cap room for who knows how long. If you're going to be aggressive in free agency, that could go out the window if there isn't some sort of quick resolution. I would suspect if you're going to put the franchise tag on him, you're going to have some sort of idea that there's a player that's willing to give you whatever compensation you want in return, and Cousins would want to go there and would be willing to sign a long-term deal there. If you don't have all those elements, then you're playing with fire, in my opinion.
Odd. Go ahead, Alex.
No. Well, what? So, I mean, we've been talking about this a little bit just now, but what about Kirk's landing spots?
Where would it be?
Yeah.
Free or in a sign and trade, because that's kind of two different things. Because it's one thing if you're going to pay Kirk Cousins and make him potentially the highest paid player in football. It's another thing if you got to do that and give up picks. And then what would he want to weaken the team he's going to go to? Because the less picks that they have, that means that's fewer good players or potential good players on that team. So I think it's a risky long shot move. But if I'm Cousins, I want to go to Minnesota. I look at that team, got to the NFC Championship. I'm thinking I'm better than anything they've had at quarterback there, and I can be a missing piece. If not there, I want to go to Denver. And it seems like you got some people in Denver, Von Miller in particular, who are championing that cause. And I found as an agent that if you played well against the team, sometimes that team had a lot of interest in you in free agency. I'll give you an example of that. Years ago, I helped represent Eric Allen, who played for the Eagles. In 2 different games, he returned 3 touchdowns for interceptions against the Saints. Where does he go as a free agent? To the Saints. So sometimes when you play really well against someone, that's where you end up. So if I'm Cousins, I want to go one of those 2 teams. I don't want to go to Cleveland, even though they could pay me the most money because they have $113 million in cap room is what they're projected to have if the cap's $178 million. I would be impressed with the front office because if John Dorsey can assemble talent on a football field the way he has a front office, then I would look at that as a positive because the guys he's brought into the front office, he's put together an all-star cast. Now, in Cleveland, I don't know if Scott McCloughan going there would really pave the way for Cousins, given that he said he's not special. And if he's in Dorsey's ear saying the guy's not special, why are you going to spend a ton of money for him anyway? So, or I wouldn't rule out the Jets either because you got that Jeremy Bates Shanahan connection. They had more talent, or at least played better than you thought they would, since everyone thought they were going to be in position for the number 1 pick and didn't, and won more games or were more competitive. So I would put it in those teams in this order: Minnesota, Denver, then the Jets, maybe Arizona. I'd have to be convinced Larry Fitzgerald's going to play another year and not call it a career.
Interesting.
Okay, Joe, just to tie up loose ends on this Alex Smith trade, it doesn't have to be a long answer here, but the Redskins did give up a third and Kendall Fuller for Alex Smith. I just wanted to know, in your opinion, if you felt that was paying too much, and we can move on from this one. But I just wanted to know your opinion on that, real quick.
I think I'd rather have given up a pick than Kendall Fuller. I don't want to give up a good young corner. I looked at what the trade value might be, similar to the Donovan McNabb trade value, the second and the fourth round pick. I don't know what type of pick value to assign to a player, but it's a third and a player. So that's within the ballpark of what I thought the compensation might be.
Okay. Is it a matter of the Redskins kind of putting themselves in a box with the way they handled this Cousins situation and are sort of forced into giving up Kendall Fuller to make this happen?
Yeah, it feels an obvious need for Kansas City because they got one corner. That was a big problem this year. So if they think they've got the guy who can hold up on the other side next to Marcus Peters, and they have Mahomes as the guy on a go-forward basis, yeah, that's better than a pick for them. What really should have happened is, and I know you can't cry over spilled milk, should have taken Mike McCartney, Kirk Cousins' agent, up on his offer, 19 and a half, $20 million over 3 years. You'd have him through 2018, and none of this needed to happen.
Shoulda, coulda, woulda.
Well, I know that we're probably already over time with you, Joel, but can we pick your brain about a couple more players, potential free agents here before we let you go?
Sure.
So shifting away then from QBs, can we talk a little bit of Zach Brown? A lot of people suspecting he's going to demand a high price. We've taken care of one linebacker. What do you think about Zach Brown and his future with the team?
Yeah, last year the linebacker market wasn't great in free agency if you're trying to switch teams. And if you've gotten paid recently as a non-pass rushing linebacker, it's been from your own team. He's probably going to be looking for that same Christian Kirksey, Vontaze Burfict, Alec Ogletree type money, $10 million per year range. If I'm the Redskins, I don't want to go that high. You re-sign Mason Foster for dirt cheap.
Yep.
So you got Compton, who's also a free agent. I try to leverage one of those guys against Compton, I should say, not one of those guys. You already signed one. I try to leverage Compton against Zach Brown to try to lower his price for him to come back because he was a very good player for you before he got hurt. Tackling machine like he was in Buffalo the year before.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you were advising Zach, would you advise him to go for the $10 million, or is that wishful thinking on his part, though?
Oh, you got to try for it at first, but you also have to be ready to adjust expectations if you don't find anyone who's willing you can use against the Redskins during that 40-hour legalized tampering window, which starts on March 12th. Because last year, free agency did not go the way he wanted to. Same with Kevin Minter. Those guys ended up signing one-year prove-it deals. He proved it a lot more than Minter, but that's something that once you get burned in free agency like that, you have to be flexible quicker than you were the previous year, so you're not ending up in the same boat as you were when you signed the one-year prove-it deal. So, yeah, I would try to get the $10 million, but if I couldn't get anything close to that ballpark, I'd start adjusting accordingly after that. Maybe you bridge the gap with incentives or something like that, or maybe you try to go another one-year prove-it deal at a higher level. It would just kind of depend on where the offers are coming and decide what tack you take.
Okay, so the Redskins are in need of clearly in need of some receiver help. There are likelihoods of two top-tier receivers hitting the open market, but more realistically, who do you think is more likely to be available to teams when the off-season comes? Martavis Bryant of Pittsburgh or Allen Robinson of the Jacksonville Jaguars? Is there any likelihood of either one of those being available?
You'd have to trade for Bryant because Bryant's contract, he's a year behind where he should have been because he told with this year suspension. Allen Robinson is an intriguing one. Coming off the ACL tear, I'd try to sign him to a one-year prove-it deal. Might have to be a little more than you paid Terrell Pryor. I would also look at Sammy Watkins. I know there's been some rumblings that the Rams could franchise him, and I would say, why? You don't have to put a $16 million franchise tag on him. That's crazy. He didn't do anything in L.A. I would try to look at him as a one-year prove-it guy, or maybe Jarvis Landry if things go south in Miami.
Okay, so Landry and Sammy Watkins is, I would assume, is what you're saying, your top two.
Oh, Allen Robinson as well. It's just
okay, all right.
Well, you got Marquise Lee who's free as well. So you got options. You just got to get
Terrell
someone
Pryor
in.
have any value anymore? I mean, after this season, it was a disaster for him.
Yeah, he's still got value. His best bet is to try to go back to Cleveland if they'll have him. I don't think he can make the $6 million out of one. It's probably going to be less than that, and try to reestablish yourself. The guy's still Calvin Johnson size. I thought since he hadn't really played the position much that he would take another quantum leap forward, but that didn't happen. I don't fault him for the decision he made. If I represented him, I'd have made the same choice. Take the bet on myself. Sometimes when you bet on yourself, it doesn't necessarily pay off, but he's still young enough where he could bet on himself again and try to have a bounce back year and then go from there in 2019.
Okay. Hey, Joel, I have kind of one big question. This is kind of my final question that I always want to ask someone like you who's actually been in the business. What is something we fans just are always overlooking when it comes to all this off-season contract talk? You know, like, we all love playing these simulated off-seasons, mock drafts, mock off-season things that are online, but what's something that we just all overlook that someone like you who's been in there, like, kind of just chuckles at us missing?
How much money is a measuring stick to players? I always chuckle when people talk about, oh, so-and-so wants to win. He's going to take less money to stay or go someplace. Mm-hmm. I'm like, yeah, all things being equal or relatively equal, yeah, you want to win, but money is what trumps practically everything unless your name is Tom Brady. That's one of the rare guys that'll take some sort of hometown discount. But money is what's going to drive a lot of things. I'll use Cousins for instance. Let's say Minnesota offers him $17 million a year, and the Jets offer him $27 million a year.
Sure.
He's not a Viking. He's a Jet. He's not going from that type of discount. If it's like $1 million per year different, or maybe it's front loaded and the structure's not that much different, yeah, the guy's gonna he may factor the winning in at that point, but guys will go play for 0-16 team if they're gonna pay him significantly more than any other team.
Right.
Sure. I mean, there are going to be 53 guys in Cleveland. We all know that.
They got Kevin Zeitler to come in to be the highest paid guard last year. So
sure,
Oakland was able to get Rodney Hudson to come in when they were lousy, made him the highest paid center.
Well, and this is kind of when you hear the speeches, of these players who say, I'm glad to be here. We're building something for the future. I think we can get there, and that basically means I took the best contract that pays me the most money, it seems to me.
So, now here's the key. When someone says it's not about the money, it was about the money. Whenever right. I hear that line, it didn't have anything to do with the money, I'm like, yeah, right, okay. That's a dead giveaway to me. And also, when you hear a guy saying that he wants to stay put as opposed to leave, I'd say at least 50% of the time he's saying that because he wants to preserve the option and have that team to be able to use against other teams in free agency, as opposed to saying, there's no way I'm ever coming back to that team. I'm good riddance. I'm glad I can be out of there. You want to preserve that option and create the appearance that you still have them as a suiter.
Well, we heard that a lot from our former quarterback here in D.C. in the last
I knew
month.
exactly what he was doing.
Sure.
I knew exactly that's what I had in mind when I said that, but I used that as well when I was representing players. Because sometimes you do a deal of smoke and mirrors where you only have one team, but they don't necessarily know that, but you have to walk a fine line between being aggressive and not overplaying your hand.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I just hope that, fans understand that it's okay for players to make the most money more than anything.
Yeah,
only
well,
livelihood
I don't.
they're living.
Here's something I never understood about fans. Whenever there's some sort of contract dispute, the fans will side with the billionaire as opposed to the millionaire, and
Right.
fans will try to put themselves in their shoes and go, well, if I'd take that deal if you offered me that type of money. I'm like, players want to get paid what they feel is their market value. If they feel that they're not getting that, they're going to go elsewhere if it's in free agency, or they may hold out. May turn to a contract dispute if they're still under contract. I suspect that if those fans had been players their whole lives, they'd feel the same way the player did, because you want to be paid what you're worth no matter what job you're in. It's no different for an athlete.
Sure.
So the takeaway from this is the only player who's going to give a hometown discount is the one who's married to the supermodel that makes more than he does.
Yeah, well, you're going to see a couple of players like Chris Long start ring chasing after they coming off a big contract and they played for a team which is a perennial loser. You see that all the time. Or a guy later in his career who's made all his money, who hasn't been in a winning situation. He may take less, but you don't see quarterbacks, for the most part, take less. I'd be shocked if Drew Brees took less, because there hasn't been anything in his background to date which says or suggests he's going to give the Saints a discount.
So I'm surprised by the fact that you don't see more guys ring chase, actually, because you see it in like the NBA quite a bit with all the super teams. But I'm surprised you don't see that more in the NFL.
Well, where it really happens is you'll see the Patriots sign a guy whose free agent market isn't great, and then they'll decide, well, I can play for league minimum or below what I thought I was worth for a loser, or I can play for the Patriots or some other team that's a Super Bowl contender. But you don't see those guys sign in the first wave of free agency. That's in secondary phase free agency usually.
Oh, well, I'll tell you what, as we continue through this offseason, Joel, if we, as the roster gets filled out a little bit and we sign some more contracts, can we have you back to pick those apart as well?
Yeah, no problem at all.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, man. This is all interesting. Plenty to stew over as we enter the early parts of the offseason. Thank you so much, Joel.
Appreciate it.
Sure, thanks for having me.
Joel, thank you very much. And,
you got it. We said 15 minutes, but hey, I was rambling, so hey.
No, okay. No, we want to be respectful of your time. We could go forever, too. So.
Yeah. All right.
Now I've got a little bit of a roll there, so hey.
It's all good. It's all good. Joel, thanks very much, and you have a great night.
Thanks,
you too. Thanks, guys. Bye.
And we're out.
You want to do like a
2
seconds of silence and then come back in?
Yeah.
All right, and there he goes. Mr. Joel Corry, CBS Sports, NFL Football Post. Interesting stuff. I got to say, the thing that stuck out to me, Steve, the most was that he did not poo-poo this franchise tag for Kirk and then trade him thing that you
he poo-pooed it. What he said was Bruce Allen is nuts. That's what he was saying.
Right.
He's saying for any sane person would not do it. And he did make the point that I have made, which is that it will destroy your salary cap. He just said Bruce Allen has lost his mind.
He's got a track record.
What he said in a nice way. Yeah.
I had forgotten about the thing he brought up with Plummer, though.
Yeah, I did too. I thought he was going to bring up Champ Bailey. You know how the Redskins, traded Champ Bailey on a tag, but I'd forgotten all about that Plummer thing too.
Yeah.
What else?
What else? I mean,
what else stuck out?
I thought was interesting was in response to Jamal's question, he said that Kendall Fuller was a lot to give, but I think we know why the team did it. But he acknowledged that was a heavy price to pay. That stuck out in my head.
Would rather get Hicks than Fuller.
It's very interesting that he immediately says it was about the same of what you would pay for McNabb a few years earlier, or I guess we're about a decade earlier now. But
which didn't work out so well for us.
No, it did not. But hopefully it's not history repeating itself there.
I mean, the only difference is Alex is he's still productive at this time. So while he's right, we're also trading for a productive quarterback.
Yeah, McNabb had kind of gotten out of shape, and we all know that.
He was washed up. Yeah. No doubt. And the other thing was Zach Brown. It sounds like Zach's going to ask for $10 million, and the Redskins aren't going to give it to him, and so we're going to be either at a stalemate with him or he's going to move on. One or the other.
Yeah,
Sounds
I
to
mean,
me.
we've heard that they're
That's
talking, at least, which is more than we could say for some of the other free agents.
I mean, talking could mean a lot of things.
Yeah.
Could even mean not talking. Regarding the Smith acquisition there, Steve, did he say anything that surprised you? I mean, I think he gave the number right at 45 or 47 for the guaranteed.
Yeah, no, it didn't surprise me. You know, that's the reason I asked him about that guarantee stuff. Is I really wanted people to understand that it's not this is not an either or thing. It's not either he's fully guaranteed $71 million, or all of it's an injury guarantee. It's a middle ground, and the middle ground he pegged sounded about right to me, which is in the $40 million ish. So that's what we're going to see, and that's doable for the Redskins. So that was what I was hoping he was going to say.
I'm guessing when it comes out, he'll be within, like $5 million of that number.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right, well, before we let people go, it's been a short episode. Obviously, I'll say something to address that real quickly afterwards. But anything else we want to call out about the interview before we cut it off tonight?
Nope. Not on my part.
No, I liked his last point, too, that the fans sometimes don't understand it's all about the money, and it really is.
I know we understand that on this show.
Yeah.
There's no loyalty.
We're only doing this show for the money, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's sweet
Yeah,
dough.
the millions of dollars that we make.
All right. Well, obviously, this has been a shorter episode than usual, folks. That's just because we wanted to do a quick hitter episode with Joel. Obviously, he had some awesome stuff to say, and we have a slight transition here to our new schedule, which is going to be on the weekends now. So moving back into the off-season schedule, everything else is going to be the same. Keep checking back on thehawkstide.com for all that awesome written content. We will be back with you guys next time.